A census taker once tried to test me. I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
Finally some good fucking food.
Dance off, bro!
You're gonna need a bigger approach.
I'm gonna make him an offer, Captain.
So not that the Academy Awards means a whole lot to me, or to most people really, given that this movie is one of only 3 to have won the Big 5, I'd say that is a significant accomplishment. The Silence of the Lambs is one of those great thrillers that keeps you on the edge of your seat with uneasy attention. When you look at the cast of characters, it's not hard to see why. So obviously, Anthony Hopkins as the cannibal serial killer psychiatrist, Dr. Hannibal Lecter, steals the screen. In any scene that he's in, which surprisingly for such a major role, it only gets 16 minutes of screen time, he is the main reason why people remember this film so much, as proven by the enduring cultural legacy of his character. Dr. Lecter is, in the words of the movie itself, a monster. Because he is a psychiatrist and a genius, he is extra sinister because he doesn't just need to overpower you, which he could absolutely still do, but instead, he will most likely get inside your head first, and having a serial killer inside your head doesn't exactly sound like the most pleasant experience if you ask me. But despite being such an unsettling character, you kind of end up rooting for Hannibal Lecter just a little bit too, and that might make him even scarier. Because he's not just a madman, he is a gentleman and a scholar. He's an artist. He's a man of culture. And I mean a man of culture in the classical sense and not in the modern internet sense. As Clarice is walking down the aisleway towards his cell, she passes a bunch of other inmates who all display the stereotypical madman tropes. But when she gets to Hannibal's cell, he just stands there and is polite. And it kind of throws you off a little bit. It immediately becomes clear that this guy is different. Different from the rest of the criminals, but also different from all other men in general. Because unlike all other men, Hannibal Lecter is the only one who doesn't treat Clarice as a sexual plaything. Sure, she is still a plaything to him, but his designs towards her are more intellectual rather than carnal. Which shouldn't make us feel any better, but it kinda does. As instinctually people seem to have more tolerance for abuse when it's abstract and not physical. It's harder to pin down just how we feel about a character like Hannibal Lecter because he himself is so hard to pin down. He's like a snake in the grass. You know he's dangerous, but it's just hard to spot where that danger might come from. Of course, speaking of the sexualization of Clarice, this movie is full of disturbing sexual undertones. Clarice is our protagonist, and as a woman working in a traditionally masculine environment, she is subjected to a constant stream of sexualization from basically all of the male characters, except of course for Hannibal Lecter. It's not just the deviant men that she receives harassment from, but also the supposedly decent men can't help but see her as a potential sexual object as well. Of course, a lot of it may be well-meaning, and not all of it is predatory, but its constant presence does still put pressure on Clarice nonetheless. It makes her existence in this world of crime and crime fighting feel more unsafe than it already is for her male counterparts. This is what makes the relationship between her and Hannibal so unique. It's the only one devoid of sexual undertones. She gains his trust with her intellect and not her feminine charm, which is actually a great compliment to her as a character. It shows that she is strong, not just because she can put up with all the harassment and unwanted physical advances, but that she can overcome it and even rise beyond it with her intelligence and charisma still intact. This is what makes her one of the greatest female characters of all time. So while Anthony Hopkins and Jodie Foster each play extremely engaging and well-written characters, for which they each win an Oscar for. In a role that doesn't get as much attention as it should is Ted Levine's portrayal of the serial killer named Buffalo Bill, which, despite Hannibal Lecter's notoriety, is actually the main antagonist of the film. He is a much different character from Lecter, but he is just as unsettling in his own way. Where Lecter is sophisticated, Bill is crude. Where Lecter is polite, Bill is ill-mannered. Hannibal Lecter, despite being a serial killer, still treats people like people. He has a code. Buffalo Bill treats them purely as objects. There is a scene where he tells one of his captives to put the lotion in the basket.
It places the lotion in the basket.
But he doesn't refer to his captive by name or even by a pronoun, but as an it. This shows that he has no respect or regard for the women that he kills, despite his own desires. Now, I do want to get a little bit into the symbolism within Silence of the Lambs, but to do so, I will need to discuss some heavy spoilers, so for the duration of spoiler talk, I will have this icon displayed on screen. If you don't wish to hear spoilers, just mute the video until this icon vanishes, at which point it will be safe to listen to the video again. So speaking of Buffalo Bill's desires with women, despite having no respect for women, he wants to become one himself as a transsexual, an identity with all kinds of political implications these days, but we're not going to focus on any of that. It might seem odd that he wants to be something that he has no respect for, but as explained by Dr. Lecter, he already hates himself and his current identity, and so desires a change into something that he sees as beautiful. He may not respect women, but he still does see them as beautiful. This is the symbolism of the moth. A moth undergoes great physical change from a juvenile caterpillar, which is little more than a worm, like he imagines himself to be, into a majestic and beautiful moth, which is what he wants to be. Also, in a sick play on words, Buffalo Bill shoves a chrysalis of a death's head moth into the head of his dead victims. Gross, but clever. Another prominent symbol in the movie is within the title itself, the lambs. Traditionally, lambs and sheep are symbols of purity and innocence. Clarice, when she was a child, couldn't save the lambs on her family's ranch. Now as an adult, she is working to join the FBI, in a way, still trying to save the innocent from slaughter. Her lambs now are the victims of Buffalo Bill, and they won't stop screaming until they are either safe or otherwise silenced. There is, however, a symbol in the film that I will nitpick, and that is the swastika. We see the swastika in Buffalo Bill's basement as if to say, hey, watch out for this guy, he's bad news. Look, see, he's got a swastika in his grimy torture dungeon, so you know that he's evil. Yeah, thanks, movie. I'm glad you made sure it was obvious that this guy was bad, because I don't think I could have figured that out on my own. Except for, the fact that I did figure it out on my own because, the grimy torture dungeon. For a movie that is so aware of its own symbology, it seems odd that they would use this symbol and not have it actually tie into anything else in the film. It seems that it is only there just for the basic purpose of telling us, the audience, what we already knew, that this guy is fucked up. It just seems like lazy writing to me. But that's just a minor nitpick. Think of it what you will. So, for the most part, Silence of the Lambs is a very well-written thriller featuring multiple Oscar-worthy performances. Despite how unsettling it can be, it is still captivating, so you can't look away or forget about it after. It features disturbing sexual and predatory themes that are not very pleasant to think about in, any context, but still manages to grip your attention. The cultural legacy of this film is well-deserved, and I think it will remain in the public conscience for quite a long time. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that for now. Good night.